Welcome to the Whispers of Your Inner Child. I'm Lisa Skeffington, consultant psychotherapist, psychodynamic mentor, and your guide to uncovering the quiet truths buried deep within. In this series, we meet the whispers of remarkable women who dare to feel, to heal, and to rise. Today, in this episode, The Whisper Behind the Monster, I invite you to listen to the life behind the legend. A woman whose inner whispers were so powerful, so aching, they birthed one of the most haunting novels of all time, Frankenstein. This is the story of Mary Shelley, and this is her whisper. Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley was born in 1797 to two of the most radical thinkers of their time, the feminist philosopher Mary Wollstonecraft and the political writer William Godwin. But tragedy struck immediately. Her mother died from complications just days after childbirth. Imagine the unspoken whisper that was likely etched into Mary from that very moment. You were the reason she died. She never heard her mother's voice. She never felt her warmth. And that early trauma, the first betrayal of connection, would shape her understanding of love, grief, and abandonment. For many of us, there's a whisper we carry that tells us we are somehow to blame for the chaos around us. This was Mary's first whisper. Her father, though intellectually brilliant, was emotionally distant. When he remarried, Mary felt pushed aside by her stepmother. A girl once adored became a girl barely tolerated. She was sent away for long periods, her education often self-led. She escaped into books, into fantasy, into imagination. This is something many high-achieving women can relate to, finding refuge in achievement when emotional safety is lacking. If you're listening to this and thinking, that sounds like me, you're not alone. Let me share what's actually happening psychologically. What we're witnessing in Mary's early life is what psychologists call disrupted attachment. And for many of you listening, this may feel painfully familiar. When a child loses their primary caregiver, or when that caregiver is emotionally unavailable, the child internalizes a deeply wounding belief. There is something wrong with me. I am the problem. If I had been different, better, more, I would have been loved. Many of the high-performing women that I work with, successful executives, entrepreneurs, leaders in their fields, carry this exact wound. On the surface, you're smashing it. But under the surface, you're paddling frantically to stay afloat, constantly proving your worth, because deep down, there's a whisper that says, I'm not enough. This is the birth of imposter syndrome. Mary became brilliant, not despite her trauma, but because of her need to compensate for feeling inherently unlovable. She poured herself into intellectual achievement because if she couldn't be emotionally held, she could at least be intellectually respected. Does that sound familiar? How many of you have perhaps thought, if I just work harder, then maybe I'll feel confident. If I just achieve more, maybe then I'll feel worthy. But here's the truth that Mary's story reveals. No amount of external achievement can heal an internal wound of unworthiness. The mask Mary wore, the composed, brilliant literary figure, was her survival strategy. But underneath, that little girl was still asking, am I enough? Will you stay? Do I matter? When you notice that inner whisper of I'm not enough, or I should have this figured out by now, try this. Pause and place your hand on your heart. Take 3 slow breaths. 1, 2, 3. And say to yourself, this feeling doesn't mean I'm broken. It means a younger part of me needed something I didn't receive. I can give that to myself now. This simple practice interrupts the cycle of self-criticism and begins to rewire your internal narrative. You're not fixing yourself. You're finally giving yourself the compassion that was missing. At 16, Mary met the poet Percy Bysshe Shelley, already married with a child. Their love affair was scandalous and impassioned. They eloped to Europe. Romantic, yes, but also profoundly destabilizing. Society rejected them. Her father disowned her, and that whisper of rejection only grew louder. You're on your own. You must endure in silence. Mary and Percy endured deep financial and emotional strain. Their travels were marked by cold nights, empty stomachs, and constant displacement. They lost 3 children in succession, each death a dagger. One of her babies died in her arms. In her journal she wrote, I held the corpse of my child and watched the days pass by. She spiraled into deep depression. It was during this time, amidst unbearable grief, emotional isolation, and relentless trauma, that Frankenstein was born. I wonder if, as you're listening to Mary's story, you're starting to recognize something in yourself. That relentless pursuit of love through achievement, that exhaustion behind the mask. Let's explore what's happening here. Mary's pattern mirrors what I see constantly in my practice with high-achieving women. The relentless pursuit of love and belonging through external validation, followed by catastrophic loss that finally forces a reckoning. She kept giving, kept performing, kept trying to be enough. She eloped with Percy, hoping that finally someone would truly see her. But Percy was emotionally unavailable, unfaithful, and often dismissive of her brilliance. Sound familiar? How many of you have been the one who over-delivers, over-gives, and over-performs in your career, in your relationships, hoping that if you just do enough, you'll finally feel worthy of love and respect? The grief Mary carried wasn't just about losing her children. It was the grief of never having been truly held herself. The grief of constantly fighting to be seen, heard, and valued, and yet still being dismissed. And here's where many of you might recognize your own story. She wore the mask even in her deepest pain. She had to appear composed, literary, clever, the wife of a celebrated poet, the daughter of revolutionaries. But inside, there's rarely a day that goes by when I don't feel like I'm not being heard. That quote could have been Mary's own words. It could be yours. This is high-functioning anxiety. This is burnout. This is the cost of living with a mask so heavy you forget what your own face looks like. Mary's breaking point came when she could no longer deny the whisper inside. She was drowning, and from that drowning, from finally allowing herself to feel the full weight of her grief, her rage, her loneliness, Frankenstein emerged. The creature wasn't just fiction, it was her shadow self, the part of her that felt monstrous for having needs, for wanting to be seen, for daring to exist fully. If you're constantly over-delivering and feeling unappreciated, it's time perhaps for a boundary reset. Here's how. Identify one area where you're overgiving, at work, in a relationship, with family. Ask yourself, what would change if I gave 20% less here? What am I afraid would happen? Start small. Decline one request this week. Delegate one task. Leave work 30 minutes earlier one day. Notice the discomfort and remind yourself, putting boundaries in place is an act of self-love. I am not selfish for having limits. And remember, those who truly value you will respect your boundaries. Those who resist, well, they may need time to adjust their expectations for a healthier and more balanced version of your relationship to emerge. In the novel, Victor Frankenstein creates a being, then recoils in horror at what he's created. The creature, nameless, unloved, is rejected by all. He longs for connection, but his outward form elicits only fear. This creature is Mary's shadow self, the unloved inner child, the wounded girl longing for her mother, the grieving mother blaming herself, the woman shunned by society. That whisper we all carry. If people really saw me, they would turn away. The creature in Frankenstein says, I am malicious because I am miserable. Am I not shunned and hated by all mankind? This is emotional wounding on the page. It is the psychological profile of shame, of chronic rejection, of masking deep pain behind intellect, behind social performance. Mary had to appear composed, literary, clever, while inside her whisper screamed, love me, see me, don't leave me. Even as she gained acclaim, Mary wore a mask. The wife of a celebrated poet, the daughter of revolutionaries, the accomplished writer. But few knew the depths of her loss, of the despair she carried. Her relationship with Percy was complex, passionate, yet often neglectful. He was unfaithful. She felt unseen in her brilliance, often reduced to the woman behind the genius. Sound familiar? The high-achieving woman who overperforms but feels chronically undervalued, unseen. Mary's whisper, I must prove myself to be loved. Her letters reveal that she often felt misunderstood, emotionally abandoned. Her ability to express these feelings came not through open dialogue, but through the metaphor of fiction. Frankenstein's creature was her vessel for all she couldn't say aloud. Mary's life reminds us that healing begins when we allow ourselves to hear that whisper. Her creativity was her compass, her grief, her muse. Her voice emerged not because she was healed, but because she could no longer silence the girl within her who was desperate to speak. That whisper didn't say, be perfect. It said, be honest. And in doing so, she gave generations permission to feel their rage, their grief, and their yearning for connection. If you've ever felt like the outsider, the misunderstood one, if you've ever lost someone and blamed yourself, if you've masked your wounds behind high-functioning roles and impeccable achievements, then perhaps you, like Mary, carry your own whisper in a similar way. And maybe it's time to listen. Before you go, if Mary's story touched something deep in you today, if you found yourself thinking, that's me, more than once, I want you to know you don't have to carry that whisper alone anymore. I've created a quiz for you to discover what is your inner child whispering. Your self-esteem reality check behind the mask takes just a few minutes, and it will reveal the invisible patterns beneath your mask of success. You'll find it at welcome.empoweredmomentum.com. Once you complete the quiz, you'll have the option to book a results call with me, a deeply personalized consultation where we'll go through your specific patterns, what's really driving that inner whisper, and create a clear pathway forward for your healing journey. Because here's what I know from 25 years plus of helping women just like you. You don't have to keep wearing the mask. You don't have to keep proving your worth. The transformation Mary found through finally listening to her whisper, that's available to you too. Take the quiz at welcome.empoweredmomentum.com, and when you're ready to understand what it's really telling you, I'll be there. Thank you for joining me today on the Whispers of Your Inner Child. Next time, we'll continue to uncover the emotional truths behind the stories of remarkable women who healed their past to rise empowered, unmasked, and unstoppable. Until then, may you hear your whisper and may you dare to follow it. Follow the whispers of your inner child and never miss an episode. Find out more about my work at empoweredmomentum.com.